Hey everybody, welcome back to Tech Talk Education. This is Dr. Heldman. I want to continue going down the PowerShell road. So in this movie, it shouldn't be too long of a movie. We're going to talk about what are called arrays. So let's get started. Okay, I'm going to use Excel for a little bit of this. You could use Google Docs as well, Google Sheets. The only thing I wanted to get at here was that I wanted to show you that you can declare an array, and the array has to have, you give it a variable name, and then the equal sign, left parentheses, right parentheses, and then you put each data object inside this array here. Now, what I should have done was I should have put tick, car tick, comma, like that, because when you're putting strings in, you're using the ticks to denote that you have a string there, like so. So I didn't do that here in my example. I could put tick, van, tick, comma, like that, and then tick convertible, tick, comma, space, like that, and then tick all-wheel drive, tick. Now the ending one doesn't need a comma. The ones that are in between do. So here, 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 and here. So this is an array, and an array has a specific definition. You can put things in an array. They have to all be of the same data type. So in this case, they're all strings. And I could have put, I forgot to put a tick in there. No, I didn't. I had the tick in there. Let me put a tick, tick, to tell I need a tick. Now, that's all good, but here's the thing. Let me put another tick in here just so you can see what I'm doing here. There we go. Tick, tick. Or you could use double quotes as well. Either way is going to work fine when we're declaring these arrays like this in most languages. Some languages might be pretty temperamental, and they might need you to type in, either ticks or double quotes. You'll have to check on your particular language. So that's what that looks like. This is an array, and it has a data type that is a data type string here. Now, we can also, in Python, create what's called a list. And a list is going to be different in Python than an array. And this is something you've got to be aware of, because you cannot really conveniently do machine learning coding unless you're using arrays, because when we're working with machine learning coding or something like that, we have to use data all of the same type. Now Python supports a list, and you can see here that I've got the number 3 in here, which is an integer, a Boolean true, a float 3.1416, I've got a Jeep, and then I put some object in there. It could be any old object like an MP4 or whatever. The main point that I'm trying to make here is that Python is loosely typed, so it doesn't care what data type you have in each one of those list elements. It works the same as an array where you have the element indexes, but you can put different data types in here. And as a matter of fact, you could come in here, let's say that I wanted to change this from 3 to bed, like that, comma, it would allow that. So you would get away with that just fine in Python. It's loosely typed, and so you need to be aware of that. So that's an array. An array, you can think of, it's in between parentheses. The array has to have all the same data type. So we're worried about having all the same data type in that array. Let me get rid of these columns so you can see a little bit better. I'll get rid of that column, and then I'll widen out this column. There you go. Okay, so that's an array. Now, let's go into PowerShell. Let's look at this thing here. So the way that PowerShell works is basically the same way. First thing you do is you type in your variable name. So let's say that we've got a variable called unArray. UnArray. And we're going to set it equal to. Now there's a couple of differentiators here within PowerShell. First of all, you use the @ sign to tell it that you're working with an array, and then you use left and right parentheses, and then inside you put in the various array elements. So let me put a van in here, and let me put a Jeep in here, and let me put a convertible in here, and I will put a coupe in here, like so. So that's an array, and I can print out the array by just typing in an array. Now here's the things that you need to know with an array. We're dealing with, these are called elements. So van is an element, Jeep's an element, convertible's an element, coupe's an element. Each one of those has an address. If we were talking about the array, we would say that there are 4 data members in this array. 1, 2, 3, 4. But if we want to get at one of the data members, we refer to them by their index. So this is index 0, index 1, index 2, and index 3. So for example, suppose that we wanted to change convertible to dune buggy. What we would do is we would say $array at, and then we would go count our index 0, 1, 2. So we want to change 2 to excuse me, dune buggy. And we'll print out an array again, and it gets dune buggy. So that's the concept, and it's really not too hard. Now you can have it print out different areas of the array. So we could say an array starting at 1 and ending at 3, like that. And it's going to go grab Jeep, dune buggy, and coupe. It's going to rule out the 0th element because we told it that we wanted to have it start at index 1 and go through and show us clear to index 3. 0, 1, 2, 3. Now I want to show you something. So if you come in here and say array index, an array at index 5 is going to be equal to, what should we put in here? Let's put in a bus. It says it's out of bounds, so that's a big problem for us. Now, when we have something like this, you have to be aware of how long the array is, because these arrays could be, millions of data elements long. They can be hundreds of thousands of data elements long. So in this case, it's an easy thing to see, oh, I don't have an array of 5. But what if I get an array that's given to me, I have to process it, I don't know anything about it. So what you can do is you can say an array, let's just grab this one, and tell it that we want it to show us what the length is. And it says, oh, I'm 4 long. So if I were programming something on a script or something like that, and I'm going to go in and evaluate an array, I could do an array.length, and I know now that I've got a 4 long array, like so. Now you can add an element to the array. So I can come in here and I can say an array is going to be equal to an array, and I'm going to add on, what should we add on here? We'll do a minivan here. So I'll come in here and I'll type in mini tac van, like this, and put in a tick and hit enter. Hit my up arrow and output an array, like that, and it added minivan. This is called an append operation. So we're appending to the end of the list. So you know that if you do this plus sign here and you add something to the array, it's going to append it to the end of the array. This is called an append operation, and there is what is called a prepend operation. So there are ways that you can put something in the front of the array as well. And all of the languages vary a little bit, but I can tell you that most of them have an append method that allows you to do that. In the case of PowerShell, we just use the plus sign. Now I'm going to come back here and grab this because we don't really need to write all of this stuff here. That's going overboard on the typing. We can just say plus equals, and let's go ahead and add, oh, I like that. Let's add a limousine to this. And that works the same way. So if I hit my up arrow, it grabs limousine and puts it on the end of the array. Now there's something you need to know about this. So when you're using native arrays like this, you're just declaring an array and you're going to use it, and you add to it or you take away from it. What PowerShell does, these arrays that we're working with here are fixed length. And so what PowerShell does is it not only adds or takes away the item that you're putting into the array, but it renames the array and gives it the same name as before. So that's pretty weird. Now the way to get around that, to have an array that we can just add to or take away from, requires that we use what is called an array list. Forgot to show you this. You can also add a couple of things to the array at once. So we could say plus equals, suppose that I wanted to add two vehicles types. You've got to put in the @ sign here. So let's add an EV and a luxury vehicle to this. So I'll put in an electric vehicle, like that, and then I'll put in a comma, and we'll put in a luxury vehicle. Now, if I'm going to add 2 or more items to the array, this is a regular array, not an array list. We'll talk about array lists in just a minute. I have to prepend it with the @ sign, and then I'm telling it, oh, I want you to add these 2 items to the array. So we'll hit enter, and then we'll print the array out, and it shows us that it's added all of these items to the array. By the way, this is a bad style here. You can see that I went in here and van is lowercase, coupe is lowercase, electric vehicles lowercase, luxury. You've got to make a decision about how the data is going to show up in the database or in the data listing here. You know, we either have proper case, all caps, lowercase. This is going to make it difficult to find an item if we're just allowing anyone willy-nilly to type things in however they want. Generally speaking, what coders will do is they will use a method that converts everything to uppercase or lowercase or what have you, so that the data items are easy to extract out of this particular array. That's how you get at it. Now suppose that we wanted to change coupe, for example. So coupe is at array 0, 1, 2, 3. So what we want to do is we want to change, I'm going to say an array is going to be equal to, an array at 3 is going to be equal to, let's go ahead and put a sedan in there, like so. And print out an array again, and we have replaced array with the array that was here with a sedan. So that's how you do it. So you can really do some good stuff here. The only thing you need to be aware of is that PowerShell, when you create an array this way and you add stuff to it, what it does is it does the adding, and then it overwrites the existing file name with the new length. So arrays are of a specific length in PowerShell, and we need to use an array list to modify it so that we can add to or take away without having to worry about doing all this erasing and renaming. The reason for that is it's fine here when I've got 5 or 7 entries in the array. What if I had 1 million entries in the array? I would have to delete the entire thing, rewrite it. Not good. So that's why we're worried about array lists. Now let's do an array list with, say, colors. So array lists are pretty easy. So I'm going to type in, I'm going to create my colors. So that's going to be an array. And I'm going to make it equal to, but I decide that, you know what, I want PowerShell to create an array for me that I can add to or take away from without having to worry about its length. So it's not going to, if I add something to it, it's not going to add it and then just rename it over the old one like that, because that is going to be a very time-intensive operation. So what we do is we call the PowerShell system class. And inside that class, we're going to find a subclass, I guess is the way you would describe that, or an area called collections. And collections has an array list item in it. And then what we do is we put in the @ sign, and we give it our colors. So the colors are, again, in parentheses. So let's go with my favorite color, blue, and then we've got green, and we've got red, and we've got another of my favorite colors, orange. And what did I do wrong here? I'm missing something here. I'm not sure why I did that. And then I've got purple. Now notice that when I'm doing this here, I have my string, comma, string, comma, string, comma. Oh, I see what I did. I didn't terminate red. So let me go in there and terminate that. And now we have an array that has that is changeable, so we can resize it if we want to. So let's look at my colors. I'll just get rid of this, backspace over it, and it shows my colors sitting out there. So that's another way of declaring an array in PowerShell. However, in this case, we can add to or take away from the array very conveniently. So what I can do is I can say mycolors.add, and then in parentheses I can tell, oh, I want to add another color. Let's add the color brown, for example. And then we just come up here and tell it to print out my colors, and there you go. And we can also, we have a method in here called remove. So I'll clear the screen, I'll hit my colors, and I'll change this to remove. Let's remove red, for example. And we'll hit my colors, boom, there you go. So that is the way that we use an array list. So to sum up, arrays all have data of the same type. That's a very, very important thing to keep in mind when you're working with arrays. The arrays are quite different than Python lists, which are loosely typed. Also, when you're declaring an array, you remember that you put it into a variable, so it'll, PowerShell will take what you've written and put it into a variable name. And if you're just using it natively, like you're saying my array equals this list of stuff, it's going to do a fixed length. And so if you want to add to it, it will happily add to it, but then it's going to rename it and give it the original name again. So that is going to take up some time. To get around that, you can do what's called an array list. Let me go back up here and show you how you do that. You declare the array name, and then you tell it, oh, it's going to be an array list, and then you add the members to it that way. These are called array elements or array members, and then each element has an index, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. But if you were to come down here and say my colors, let me see if I can find my colors somewhere. Let's tell it .length, and it tells me that it's got this number of letters inside each of the array elements. So that's not going to work for you. So if you were doing regular array length, it's going to tell you, oh, I have this many elements in here. In this case, it's going in and telling you the length of each of the elements in the array. So that's kind of weird, yeah? Okay, that's all I wanted to talk about in this case. In the next movie, what we're going to do is talk about a little bit different type of an array. It's still an array, but there's even more detail to it that you need to know about. And it's a little bit different in Python, the way Python handles it. But we will look at that in the next movie. Please, if you're enjoying these movies, please subscribe to them, like them, tell your friends about them, and you're welcome to leave comments in my videos. I'm happy to answer your comments. I've been getting some really nice comments from you guys, so thank you very much for that. And I will talk to you in the next video. Bye-bye.